Myth among the stars. The grand assembly of the 7 galaxies trembled with impatience as High Admiral Zara Kalen stepped onto the central platform. Her 6-limbed form moved with practiced grace, silver-blue scales catching the light from the artificial stars that floated beneath the vast transparent dome. Thousands of representatives from across known space watched in silence, their varied anatomies a testament to the diversity of life that had flourished under the Assembly's 10,000-year reign. Esteemed representatives, Zara began, her voice amplified by the ancient acoustics of the chamber. For millennia, we have dismissed the legend of Earth as nothing more than a child's tale, a quaint story of a blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, home to a species that supposedly reached for the stars before the Great Silence. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The story of Earth was indeed well known, a cautionary tale told to younglings across the 7 galaxies. Earth, the mythical birthplace of a species called humans who had supposedly achieved spaceflight before mysteriously vanishing from the cosmic stage. Parents used it to warn their children about the dangers of technological hubris and ecological negligence. Yet 3 cycles ago, Zora continued, our long-range sensors detected something impossible. She gestured with her upper limbs, and a holographic projection materialized above the assembly. It showed a small region of space near the edge of the Milky Way, past the radiation barrier that had long prevented deeper exploration. A signal, structured, artificial, coming from a region where no civilization should exist. Impossible, shouted Councillor Xath, his crystalline form vibrating with indignation. That region has been dead since the quantum collapse of the Third Era. Nevertheless, Zara said calmly, the signal exists, and it bears the mathematical signature described in the ancient texts, the prime number sequence attributed to the mythical humans of Earth. Silence fell over the assembly. The implications were staggering. If Earth was real, if humans had somehow survived, then countless historical assumptions would need to be reevaluated. Elder Thune, the ancient fungoid historian whose memory spanned 15 centuries, floated forward. In all my years studying the archives, I believed Earth to be allegory, a fiction created during the dark times to inspire hope. If this signal is genuine. That is why, Zara interrupted, the Admiralty has authorized an expedition. I will personally lead the 7th Fleet to investigate this anomaly. The uproar was immediate and chaotic. Some representatives called for caution, others for immediate first contact protocols. A few even demanded quarantine procedures, citing ancient warnings about the unpredictable nature of these mythical humans. Zara raised all 6 limbs for silence. The decision has been made. We depart in 1 cycle. The journey to the coordinates took 47 days, even with the fleet's most advanced quantum drives. As they approached the radiation barrier that had historically prevented exploration of this sector, Zara stood on the command deck of the flagship Eternal Vigilance, watching the unfamiliar stars grow larger on the viewscreen. Admiral, reported her second-in-command, a methane-breathing Tholian named Vex. Sensors are detecting unusual energy fluctuations ahead. They don't match any known signature in our databases. Zara nodded. Continue approach, but raise shields. First contact protocols remain in effect. As the fleet penetrated deeper into the uncharted region, the radiation barrier began to interfere with their systems. Lights flickered, and communication between ships became sporadic. This radiation pattern is artificial, Chief Science Officer Lear announced, her tentacles moving rapidly over the control surfaces. It's a deliberate construct, a curtain designed to block both entry and observation. Designed by whom? Zara wondered aloud. The answer came moments later as the fleet emerged through the curtain. There, floating in the void, was a vessel unlike any they had ever seen. It was neither sleek nor elegant by the standards of galactic engineering. Rather, it appeared almost crude, with exposed structural elements and massive radiator fins extending from its central hub. Solar collectors stretched for kilometers, gathering energy from the distant stars. And it was enormous. at least 20 kilometers from bow to stern, dwarfing even the eternal vigilance. Life signs? Zara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Millions, Lur replied, equally stunned. Biological signatures consistent with carbon-based life forms. Oxygen breathers. The communications array chimed suddenly, startling everyone on the bridge. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer. "Audio and visual, using basic electromagnetic radiation. Primitive, but effective." Zara straightened her posture. On screen. The view screen flickered, and a figure appeared. Bipedal with a bifurcated body plan and only 2 manipulator limbs. Its skin was a deep brown, and dark hair framed a face with 2 forward-facing eyes. It wore some kind of uniform adorned with unfamiliar symbols. "This is Captain Elena Matsuoka of the Earth vessel Persistent Memory," the creature said in a clear, confident voice. "We've been waiting for someone to notice us for a very long time." Zara felt her heart skip a beat. Earth, the mythical homeworld. The legend was speaking to them. "This is High Admiral Zara Kellen of the 7th Fleet, representing the Grand Assembly of the 7 Galaxies," she replied, struggling to maintain her composure. "We received your signal." The human, for it could only be a human, smiled, revealing flat teeth. "Just as the old records predicted. We've been broadcasting that signal for 300 years, hoping someone would hear it through our radiation shield." 300 years. Vex muttered. No species would maintain such a project for that long without results. Captain Matsuoka's expression grew solemn. "Admiral, we have much to discuss. Earth is gone. Destroyed when our sun unexpectedly went nova nearly 1,000 years ago. We are its legacy, the last of humanity, traveling through the stars in our generation ship. We've been searching for others like you, advanced civilizations that might have room for us." Zara processed this information with shock. The destruction of Earth would explain why the human civilization had disappeared from cosmic awareness. Yet here they were, surviving, continuing. "Your vessel is remarkable," Zara said carefully. "Our scans indicate technology both familiar and utterly foreign to our understanding." Matsuoka nodded. "Necessity breeds innovation, Admiral. When you're the last of your kind, you learn to make do with what you have, and to improve upon it whenever possible." The bridge crew exchanged glances. The implications were staggering. If these humans had developed technologies unknown to the Assembly, the balance of power across the 7 galaxies could shift dramatically. "We would like to invite a delegation aboard the Persistent Memory," Matsuoka continued. "We have maintained our cultural archives meticulously. Perhaps you'd like to see that Earth was more than just a story." Zara considered briefly. Protocol dictated caution, but curiosity overwhelmed her instincts. "We accept your invitation, Captain Matsuoka. I will lead a delegation personally." As preparations began for the historic meeting, Zara retreated to her private quarters. She accessed the Assembly's historical archives, searching for any information about humans that might have been dismissed as fiction. The entries were sparse but intriguing. Humans, allegedly a bipedal species from the mythical planet Earth, said to be highly adaptable and unusually persistent. Ancient texts described them as dangerously innovative and capable of thriving in conditions that would destroy more advanced species. Many historians believe humans to be an allegorical construct rather than a historical reality. Zara closed the archive with a thoughtful gesture. If the legends had understated rather than exaggerated the capabilities of these humans, the Assembly might be facing something unprecedented, a species that had survived its own extinction through sheer determination. Hours later, as the diplomatic shuttle approached the massive human vessel, Zara and her team watched in awe as massive bay doors opened to receive them. Inside was a cavernous docking area buzzing with activity. Smaller craft moved about with purpose, and bipedal figures in various uniforms worked at tasks that seemed both familiar and alien. "It's like a city," whispered Lear. "A self-contained civilization." When the shuttle landed, They were greeted by Captain Matsuoka herself, accompanied by a diverse group of humans varying in size, coloration, and apparent age. "Welcome aboard the persistent memory," Matsuoka said, placing her right hand over her chest in what appeared to be a formal gesture. "You are the first non-humans we've encountered in our 1,000-year journey." Zara performed the assembly's traditional greeting, touching her primary limbs together. "We are honored to meet you, though I must confess, until days ago, we believed your kind to be merely legend." Matsuoka smiled again, an expression Zara was beginning to recognize as indicating positive emotional states, "and we wondered if we were alone in the universe. It seems we both have much to learn from each other." As they began a tour of the vessel, Zara was struck by the ingenious solutions humans had developed for long-term space habitation. The ship contained vast agricultural sections where plants grew under artificial light, water recycling systems of remarkable efficiency, energy generation methods that somehow extracted power from the quantum vacuum itself, a technology the assembly had theorized but never successfully implemented. "How did you achieve stable vacuum energy extraction?" Lure asked one of the human engineers, unable to contain her scientific curiosity. The human, a female named Dr. Uchida, smiled proudly. "Trial and error, mostly. When your species faces extinction, you become very motivated to solve previously unsolvable problems." In the main control center, Matsuoka showed them holographic records of Earth before its destruction, a beautiful blue world with white clouds and brown-green landmasses. The images triggered something in Zara's ancestral memory, a sense of recognition she couldn't explain. "Why did you hide behind the radiation barrier?" Zara asked as they observed the ship's defensive systems, another area where human innovation had produced surprising results. Matsuoka's expression darkened. "Caution. In our journey, we've observed distant civilizations. Some seemed peaceful, others clearly warlike. We wanted to study the galaxy before revealing ourselves." "Yet you sent out a signal," Vex pointed out. "A calculated risk," Matsuoka acknowledged. "The signal contained mathematical truths that only an advanced science-based civilization would recognize. We hoped it would attract the attention of beings we could potentially trust." As their tour continued deeper into the vessel, Zara became increasingly aware that they were being shown only what the humans wanted them to see. Strategic sections remained off-limits, and certain questions received politely evasive answers. These humans were cautious, intelligent, and, most concerning of all, potentially far more advanced in certain technologies than the assembly had achieved in millennia. The tour culminated in a vast chamber unlike anything Zara had ever seen. The walls appeared to be made of some crystalline substance that shifted and flowed like liquid while maintaining structural integrity. At the center stood a device that defied easy description, a complex arrangement of fields and matter that pulsed with energy. "This is the heart of our ship," Matsuoka said with evident pride. "The continuity engine. It's what has kept us alive and moving for 1,000 years." "What does it do?" asked Lear, her scientific sensors extended to their maximum capacity. Before Matsuoka could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The captain's posture changed instantly, relaxed diplomacy giving way to alert command. "Captain," came a voice from somewhere above, "we're detecting multiple unidentified vessels entering the system. They've penetrated the radiation barrier and are on an intercept course." Matsuoka turned to Zara, her expression deadly serious. "Are these your people, Admiral?" Zara accessed her fleet's communications immediately. "Unidentified vessels approaching. Not assembly ships. Configuration unknown." The human captain nodded sharply. "Then it seems we both have unexpected visitors. I suggest we continue this first contact under more pressing circumstances." On the chamber's walls, displays activated to show a group of dark, angular ships moving with predatory purpose toward both the human vessel and the assembly fleet. "We know those ships," Vex said, his voice tight with concern. "Void hegemony raiders. They rarely venture this far into unclaimed space. Void hegemony, Matsuoka asked, already moving toward what appeared to be a tactical station. The scourge of the outer systems, Zara explained grimly. Ruthless predators who strip resources from weaker civilizations. If they followed us here. The human captain's eyes narrowed as she studied the approaching vessels. Then it seems, Admiral, that we'll have to demonstrate that neither of us is weak. She turned to her crew. Battle stations. Prepare to defend ourselves and our guests. As klaxons sounded and humans rushed to their posts with disciplined efficiency, Zara realized that this first contact was about to evolve into something far more complicated, and that they were about to discover firsthand whether the legendary humans were truly as formidable as the ancient texts had claimed. The defiance of humanity. The command center of the persistent memory transformed before Zara's eyes. What had been a diplomatic reception area moments ago now buzzed with focused military precision. Holographic displays materialized around Captain Matsuoka, showing multiple views of the approaching Void hegemony vessels. "We count 12 raiders," reported a human officer, her fingers dancing across an interface that responded to both touch and thought. Heavy weapon signatures consistent with plasma artillery and quantum disruptors. Matsuoka nodded calmly. "Admiral Kalen, I suggest you return to your fleet. We can coordinate our defense more effectively if you're in command of your vessels." Zara hesitated. "The Void hegemony outguns us. Even with your impressive vessel, we are outnumbered." A slight smile crossed Matsuoka's face. "Numbers aren't everything, Admiral. Humanity has faced extinction before. We've learned a few tricks along the way." Before Zara could respond, another human officer called out, "Captain, they're broadcasting. Wide spectrum, basic translation algorithms attached." "Let's hear it," Matsuoka ordered. A harsh, guttural voice filled the command center. "Attention, unidentified vessels. This is War Master Klorath of the Void hegemony. Your technologies are now property of the hegemony. Surrender and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." Matsuoka exchanged a glance with Zara. Friendly bunch, aren't they? Despite the gravity of the situation, Zara found herself appreciating the human's composure. The hegemony does not negotiate. They take what they want and destroy what they cannot use. "Well then," Matsuoka said, straightening her uniform, "I suppose diplomacy is off the table." She activated her communications system. "War Master Klorath, this is Captain Elena Matsuoka of the Earth vessel Persistent Memory. We decline your generous offer. Please vacate this region of space immediately, or we will be forced to demonstrate why that would be in your best interest." After a moment of silence, raucous laughter echoed through the command center. "The prey threatens the hunter. Your species must be new to the stars, Captain. Allow us to educate you on the realities of the void." The transmission cut off, and immediately the tactical displays showed the hegemony vessels spreading into attack formation. "Your shuttle is ready, Admiral," Matsuoka said. "I recommend immediate departure. Things are about to get interesting." Zara signaled her delegation. "We will return to the fleet. But know this, Captain Matsuoka, the Assembly does not abandon potential allies. We will fight alongside you." Matsuoka nodded respectfully. "We appreciate that, Admiral. Now go. Your fleet needs its commander." As Zara's shuttle departed the massive human vessel, she observed changes in its external configuration. Sections of the hull were shifting, revealing what appeared to be weapon emplacements far larger than she had anticipated. Energy readings spiked to levels that shouldn't have been possible for a vessel of its design. Back aboard the Eternal Vigilance, Zara quickly took command. "All vessels, combat formation Delta 7. Focus defensive screens on the lead hegemony vessels." "Admiral," Vex reported, "the human ship is transmitting tactical data, targeting solutions, communication frequencies used by the hegemony, shield harmonics. How could they have gathered this information so quickly?" "Analysis later," Zara ordered. "Integrate their data into our systems. Let's see what these humans can do." The battle erupted with devastating suddenness. The hegemony vessels launched their first salvo, energy weapons carving bright paths through the darkness of space. The assembly fleet's shields flared under the assault, holding but straining against the onslaught. Then the persistent memory responded. From multiple points along its massive hull, weapons unlike anything in the assembly's arsenal discharged. Beams of coherent energy, not the standard plasma weapons used throughout the 7 galaxies, lanced out with pinpoint accuracy. Where they struck, the hegemony shields didn't merely weaken. They collapsed entirely, as if the fundamental forces holding them together simply ceased to function. What manner of weapons are those? Lure asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. Unknown, Vex replied, equally fascinated. They appear to be targeting the quantum field generators that power the hegemony shields. It's as if they can see the substructure of the technology and precisely neutralize it. 3 hegemony vessels, suddenly without shields, attempted evasive maneuvers. Too late. The human ship launched what appeared to be primitive projectiles, physical objects rather than energy weapons. The assembly officers watched in confusion as these seemingly obsolete munitions approached their targets. The confusion vanished when the projectiles impacted. Instead of simple kinetic damage, each projectile detonated into a controlled singularity, a microscopic black hole that existed just long enough to tear the hegemony ships apart from the inside before evaporating in a burst of Hawking radiation. Impossible, whispered Lear. Controlled quantum singularities as weapons. The energy requirements alone would be. Focus, Zara commanded, though she too was stunned by the display. All vessels, target the vessels on the port flank. Coordinate with the human ship. The assembly fleet moved with practiced precision, its energy weapons complementing the humans' devastating arsenal. 2 more hegemony vessels fell to the combined assault. The remaining raiders, clearly recognizing they faced something beyond their experience, began to withdraw. One of them, larger than the others, launched what appeared to be a final desperate attack, a direct run toward the persistent memory. They're attempting a ramming maneuver, Vex reported. At that velocity, even with the human vessel's size. Before he could finish, the space between the human ship and the approaching raider folded. There was no other word for it. A distortion appeared, as if reality itself bent according to the human's will. The hegemony vessel entered the distortion and simply disappeared. Seconds later, it reappeared, kilometers away, its momentum completely reversed, now on a collision course with another hegemony ship. The resulting explosion destroyed both vessels instantly. Spatial manipulation technology, Lure breathed. They can alter the fabric of space-time itself. The remaining hegemony ships accelerated to escape velocity, abandoning their attack in the face of weapons they could neither counter nor comprehend. Within moments, they had fled the system, leaving behind only debris and stunned silence. "The human vessel is hailing us," reported the communications officer. Zara took a moment to compose herself. What they had just witnessed had fundamental implications for the balance of power in the 7 galaxies. If humans possessed technology this advanced, why were they wandering homeless? Why seek contact with the assembly at all? "On screen," she ordered. Captain Matsuoka appeared, looking remarkably unruffled for someone who had just engaged in a battle of interstellar proportions. "Admiral Kalin, I trust your fleet weathered the encounter satisfactorily." "We suffered minimal damage," Zora replied cautiously. "Your vessel's capabilities are unexpected." A slight smile touched Matsuoka's lips. "When you're all that remains of your species, you tend to focus on survival technologies. The continuity engine I showed you earlier doesn't just power our ship. It allows us to manipulate fundamental forces in ways we're still exploring ourselves. Yet you present yourselves as refugees seeking asylum." Vex interjected, unable to hide his suspicion. Matsuoka's expression sobered. "Because that's exactly what we are, Commander. Having weapons doesn't give us a home. Having technology doesn't replace what we've lost." She paused, her gaze steady. "We could have hidden from you completely. We chose to reach out because isolation isn't survival. It's just a slower death." Zara considered this. The human logic was sound. A species, no matter how technologically advanced, needed more than just existence. It needed purpose, community, belonging. "I propose we continue our discussion," Zara said finally, "but with new understanding between us. You are not merely survivors seeking charity. You are potential allies bringing valuable contributions to the assembly." Relief visibly washed over the human captain's features. "We would welcome that framing, Admiral. Perhaps you'd care to return to our vessel. I believe I owe you the rest of that tour, without interruptions this time." The diplomatic discussions that followed spanned 7 days by standard galactic time. Zara and her team were given unprecedented access to the persistent memory, while human representatives visited the assembly fleet in return. What they discovered reshaped their understanding not just of humans, but of survival itself. The generation ship contained entire ecosystems, not just the agricultural sections they had glimpsed before, but forests, lakes, even small mountain ranges enclosed within vast biodomes. Millions of humans lived in carefully designed habitats that mimicked the environments of their lost homeworld. "We've been traveling for nearly 30 generations," explained Dr. Uchida as she led them through a lush garden area where children played among flowering plants. "Each generation has added to our knowledge base, improved our systems, and carried forward our mission." "Which is what, exactly?" asked Lear, who had been documenting everything with scientific thoroughness. "To ensure humanity doesn't just survive, but thrives," the doctor replied simply. "When Earth died, we could have chosen extinction. Instead, we chose to become something new, a species not defined by its planet, but by its adaptability." In the ship's vast archives, Zora discovered the true history of humanity, a species that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times through war, environmental negligence, and technological hubris. Yet each time, they had pulled back from the brink, learned, adapted, and continued. When their sun unexpectedly began to destabilize, a process that should have taken billions of years happening instead over mere decades, humanity had poured its remaining resources into the generation ships. The persistent memory was one of 7 that had launched in different directions, carrying the genetic diversity, knowledge, and hope of an entire species into the void. "We lost contact with the other ships centuries ago," Matsuoka told Zora during a private meeting in her quarters. "They may still be out there, finding their own paths among the stars, or we may be all that's left. Either way, we carry the responsibility for all of humanity." Zara was struck by the weight the human carried, not just the command of a vessel, but the future of a species. "Your weapons technology alone would make you valuable to the assembly. The spatial manipulation capabilities could revolutionize travel between the galaxies." Matsuoka smiled wryly. "We're not looking to be weapon suppliers, Admiral. What we offer is perspective. Humanity has faced extinction and chosen life. We've confronted the void and found purpose. We've lost everything yet retained who we are." She gestured to a small blue sphere displayed in a case on her wall, a model of Earth. "That's the true legacy of our homeworld. Not technology, but tenacity." On the final day of negotiations, Zura presented the humans' case to the Grand Assembly via quantum entanglement communication. The debates were heated, with many representatives expressing concern about introducing such an advanced species into the established order. Others argued that the humans' technology could help defend against threats like the void hegemony. In the end, it was Elder Thune who swayed the assembly. The ancient historian floated before his peers, his fungoid form pulsating with emotion. "Throughout our long history," he intoned, "we have encountered many species, welcomed many into our community, but never have we met a people who lost their homeworld and refused to perish. The humans carry with them something rare and precious, a demonstration that life, intelligent life, can transcend its origins. That is a perspective the assembly needs." The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The humans would be welcomed into the assembly, granted territory in an unclaimed system near the galactic core. Their technology would be shared selectively, with proper safeguards. In return, the assembly would provide resources and diplomatic protection as the humans established their new home. When Zara delivered the news to Captain Matsuoka, the humans' reaction surprised her. Instead of immediate celebration, the captain asked for a moment alone. When she returned, her eyes were rimmed with red, a sign of emotional secretions, Zara had learned. For 1,000 years, Matsuoka said, her voice thick with emotion, "We've been moving without destination, planning without certainty, hoping without promise. Today, that changes. Earth may be gone, but humanity has found its place among the stars." The celebration that spread through the persistent memory was unlike anything Zora had witnessed in her centuries of service. Humans danced, sang, embraced, and wept. They shared food and drink with the assembly delegation, teaching them songs from their lost world and learning galactic melodies in return. During the festivities, Vex approached Zora, his methane-breathing apparatus bubbling with agitation. "Admiral, do you trust them? Their technology, their story, it all seems too convenient." Zara watched as a group of human children presented Elder Thune with a crown of flowers they had grown in their gardens. The ancient historian wore it with dignified pleasure, teaching the younglings how to pronounce his complex name. "I trust them precisely because of their story," Zara replied. "No species invents a history of near extinction and desperate survival as a strategy. They are exactly what they appear to be, survivors seeking connection." She paused, watching Captain Matsuoka raise a toast to new beginnings. "Besides, after what we witnessed in the battle, do you truly believe they need our permission to settle anywhere they choose? They came to us openly, when they could have simply taken what they wanted." Vex considered this, and finally nodded. "A fair assessment. Still, I wonder what other capabilities they've developed during their long journey." "I'm sure we'll find out," Zora said with a rare smile. "The assembly may have just gained its most interesting member species in 10,000 years." 3 cycles later, the system designated New Terra bustled with activity. The persistent memory had been partially dismantled, its components repurposed to create the foundation of a space station that would serve as humanity's first permanent settlement since the loss of Earth. Ships from across the 7 galaxies arrived daily, bringing resources, technology, and curious visitors. The humans welcomed them all, establishing diplomatic and trade relations with a speed that impressed even the most efficient assembly bureaucrats. In the Grand Assembly Chamber, now adorned with a new symbol, a blue sphere representing Earth alongside the emblems of all member species, Zara delivered her final report on the human integration. "The species known as humans has established itself successfully within assembly space," she stated formally. "Their technological contributions, particularly in the fields of energy generation and spatial mechanics, have already yielded significant benefits. More importantly, their cultural perspective, shaped by loss yet defined by hope, offers something unique to our collective wisdom." Elder Thune, now serving as the official historian for human integration, added his own observations. "In our archives, Earth was dismissed as legend, a story too fantastical to be true. We were wrong. Not only was Earth real, but its legacy continues in its children, who now walk among us. Perhaps this should remind us that legends often contain more truth than we recognize." As the assembly session concluded, Zara received a private communication on her personal device. It was from Captain Matsuoka, now Ambassador Matsuoka, inviting her to visit New Terra for the dedication of the memorial spire, a monument to Earth that would contain seeds, soil samples, and cultural artifacts preserved during the Exodus. The message ended with words that Zara found herself contemplating long afterward. "The difference between a myth and reality is sometimes just a matter of perspective. Earth was always real to us, even when no one else believed. Now, thanks to your willingness to look beyond assumption, we have the chance to be more than a story whispered among the stars. we have the chance to write new chapters together. The humans have a saying, "Home is not where you come from, but where you are welcomed." Thank you, Admiral, for welcoming us home. Zara sent her acceptance of the invitation and then stood at the viewport of her quarters, gazing at the vastness of space with new appreciation. Somewhere out there, perhaps the other human ships still journeyed, carrying their precious cargo of life and hope. And perhaps there were other myths waiting to be discovered, other truths dismissed too readily as fiction. The galaxy, it seemed, had not yet revealed all its stories, and Zara Kalen, once certain she understood the cosmos and its inhabitants, found herself eager to discover what other legends might prove to be wonderfully, impossibly real.